Hello everyone! In this challenge video, we are going to learn about custom query vars, or variables. So what in the world does that phrase mean? What is a custom query variable? Well, way back in the course, when we set up our basic search that users would only see if they had JavaScript disabled, you might remember that I promised I would point you in the right direction of implementing custom search logic for a basic old-fashioned search like this. Well, the key to making that happen is custom query variables. Now, query vars are not just limited to searches. They are much bigger than that. They are very flexible, and we can use them in so many different ways throughout WordPress. Now, in order to show you the simplest possible example of what a query var is, why don't we jump to our About Us page? Okay, and up in the address bar, it might be nice if we could add on to the end of it and say sky color equals blue. And then it would be nice if on the server side we could check to see if this URL parameter exists or not. So maybe we could write a bit of code within our page.php template and say if the current URL has a parameter named sky color, and only if its value is set to blue, if that evaluates to true, then maybe we want to add some special conditional content down here. Right, we see websites do this all the time. There are different flags or parameters up in the URL that control how the page gets output and displayed. Well, this is where query vars come into play, because by default, WordPress completely ignores anything extra we include in the address bar. So when we visit this URL, as far as WordPress is concerned, it's only seeing this, the highlighted part. Because by default, WordPress only pays attention to special URL parameters, like the letter S for search, and page for pagination, so on and so forth. And this means that if we want to use our own custom property names like this, we need to register them manually with a bit of code. In other words, in this case, we need to register sky color as a query var. So that way WordPress doesn't just completely ignore it, and this way we can actually access its value on the server side. Luckily, this is very simple to do. So right now, let's jump into our text editor. And within our theme folder, I want you to jump into functions.php. And right up at the top here, let's add a new line and say add filter. And the name of the filter hook that we want to target is query vars. Okay, then the second argument is just a custom function that we get to invent. The name doesn't matter, but why don't we name it university query vars. Okay, then let's create a function with this matching name. Function university query vars, parentheses, curly brackets. And WordPress is going to pass all of the current query vars into our function. So within these parentheses as a parameter, we could say vars. And then within our filter function, we would just want to return that data. But the idea is that before we return it, we want to manipulate it in some way. So right above this return line, if we want to register a new query var, right? If we want to be on the lookout for sky color, we can just say vars, and it's an array, so square brackets. It's an array of all sorts of different variables about the current URL. And if we just say vars empty square brackets equals, this is how we can register a new query var. So then I will just say sky color, and that's it. That's all we need to do. Now WordPress will be on the lookout for sky color up in the address bar. So let's go ahead and save this file. And now, why don't we jump into our page.php template and write a bit of conditional code and say only if sky color equals blue, then maybe we want to output some special content down here. So back in our theme folder, let's jump into page.php and let's scroll down. Towards the bottom, maybe right below this generic the content, maybe right before this closing PHP tag, we can add a bit of code. Let's write an if statement. Let's say if parentheses curly brackets. And for our condition check, let's say if get query var, and that's a function, so it gets its own parentheses. And within those, let's just say sky color. So this code will fetch the value of sky color, and let's just say if that double equal sign, if that equals blue, and only if that evaluates to true, then let's do something. So maybe we want to echo out a paragraph that says, the sky is blue today. Be sure to end that line with a semicolon. Let's go ahead and save that. And now if I refresh, cool, I can see the sky is blue today. However, if I go up into the address bar and say sky color equals orange, well, then I no longer see that secret message. Well, it's not exactly a secret message, but you get the point. Now, just a quick note on security. Before we actually use the value of this query var, we should always sanitize it first. So maybe up here we could say sanitize text field, and within those parentheses say get query var sky color, end that line with a semicolon. But then at the very beginning of this line, we could just assign this to a variable. So I could say sky color value equals the sanitized secure version of whatever is up in the address bar. And then we could use this variable within our if check. So we could say if sky color value equals blue. So we can test this out, give it a save. If sky color equals orange, we don't see the message. But if I go back to sky color equals blue, we're back in business. And really quick, I just want to show you how you could add a second or third query var. So maybe up in the address bar, you wanted to say, and grass color equals green. So the question becomes, how would you register another query var? Well, let's jump back into our functions.php. And remember, within our filter function, we have this line. You could just duplicate that line, and this time say grass color. That's all you need to do. Go ahead and save that, and then back in our page.php, just as a test, why don't we adjust our if statement to say if the sky color is blue and if the grass color is green. So first I would sanitize that value. So you could just duplicate that line and say grass color value, and then sanitize the query var that is named grass color. And then within our if statement, we could add on a secondary check, say and if grass color value equals green. And then maybe in our test message, we would say the sky is blue today and the grass is green. Life is good. Go ahead and save that. Okay, now if we refresh, we see that message because both of our parameters are set to the special values. But if I changed grass color to purple, our if statement no longer evaluates to true, so we don't see the message. Cool. So now that we have a general understanding of what a query var is and how to register new custom query vars, now we can move on to the fun or the applied part of this lesson. Because you might be wondering, what is the point of having these options in the URL bar? Can we really expect the average visitor to type stuff in like this? Well, no, but check this out. I think this will really get the gears in your mind turning. Back in our page.php template, maybe right after this closing PHP tag, right about here so we can write good old-fashioned HTML, let's add a form element. And within this form, let's add two text fields. So input, and let's give the first one a name of sky color, and just a placeholder of sky color. This is what people will see when they first see the text field. Be sure to close this tag. On a new line, let's add another input. Give it a name of grass color, placeholder of human readable grass color. And let's give this form a submit button. So button submit, close out the button. And on our opening form tag, let's be sure to say method equals get. That way we can actually visually see our values up in the address bar. Okay, let's go ahead and save this. And then back on the front end, let's get rid of all of the extra information in the address bar. Just visit the base of your About Us page. Okay, and here we see that new form. And let's fill it out. So if I say that the sky color is purple and the grass color is orange, check out my URL. That's the exact syntax and structure that will work with query vars. So at the moment, we do not see our custom message, but if I do say that sky color is blue and grass color is green, well, then our if statement evaluates to true, and there's the message. Now that's as far as I'm going to take you on this topic, but hopefully this really gets your imagination going, and you can think up all sorts of different ways that you can use this. For example, you could use these values within a new custom WordPress query to query for certain posts with certain values for certain fields or for certain relationships. The possibilities are endless. Now, really quick, one more detail before we end this lesson. The reason you would want to include method equals get on your form is so that these properties actually appear in the address bar. So that way, if someone reaches a unique results page and they want to share the resulting page that they see, they can just copy and paste this URL to a friend or family member. So if instead I set this to method equals post, save that, visit just the base of my About Us page again, so the URL is clean. And now if I say sky color is blue, grass color is green, we can see that our solution still works, right? Our template was still able to access those values, but now the visitor has no way of sharing this unique page because the URL doesn't include any of that data. So it's totally up to you which you use, but as long as the data that someone is submitting is not in any way private or sensitive, I like using get. So that way people can share their results. Okay, and that's going to bring this challenge to a close. Your challenge is simple. Go ahead and experiment with query vars. Let's keep things rolling, and I will see you in the next one.